Good morning, students. So, last class we have discussed regarding various types of motors that is used in electrical drive system. It may be your AC motor or DC motors, and again we have classified DC motors in various kinds of DC motor we have seen, and again there are several classifications of AC motor that we have observed. And apart from that, we have derived some equations for your load torque for rotational motion as well as the translational motions, and that is very much essential for the calculation for the selection of the motor as well as for the transient operations. So today's class we are going to discuss about various types of frictional forces and your components of load torque, which is coming under your dynamics of electrical drives. So in components of load torques, what we are going to discuss, there are several kinds of torques available in electrical drive system. So it may be your frictional torque, it may be your windage torque, it may be your torque required to do the useful mechanical work, right? So these are the components of your load torque. So load torque is having three components. One is your frictional torque, another one is the windage torque, and third one is the torque required to do useful mechanical work. So let's talk about the frictional torque. So what do you mean by friction? So friction, it is the mechanical uh, or it is the opposition force applied against the motion of any body or any system. So if it is a mechanical load torque developed due to the friction between two body, so that type of friction is called as your frictional torque, and this torque opposes the motion of the motor. So it is the how the motor motion is opposed. It is due to the friction between your bearing and the shaft. And again, in drive system, this torque is present at the motor shaft and various part of the system. And frictional torque is again divided into three different parts. So one is the static frictional force, or it is shortly known as stiction. So it is the friction at zero speed. The second one is the viscous friction. Third one is the Coulomb friction, right? So viscous friction, it is proportional to your speed or angular speed, that is your omega, whereas your static friction is doesn't depends upon the speed. It is the friction due to the standstill condition of any system, that is due to zero speed. So B is shortly known as your viscous coefficient, and TV, that is your viscous torque, is equal to B into the angular momentum. So that means viscous frictional torque TV is proportional to your angular speed, and we can write TV is equal to B into omega m. Okay, so B is the constant here, which is known as the viscous coefficient. Again, Coulomb friction, it is the combination of your uh, three different frictional force, or you can write the frictional force or frictional torques is equal to the combination of your static friction plus your viscous friction plus your Coulomb friction, and Coulomb friction is independent upon the speed, right? So the total frictional force is the sum of your static friction plus viscous friction plus your Coulomb friction. So Coulomb friction, you can write this as Tc, or here I am writing Te. So you can write Tc, right? Next one, so the first graph shows it is the torque speed characteristics, sorry, it is the torque speed characteristics. So it is your static friction. So during the static friction, as the system is in static state or in standstill condition, so the speed value is 0. So when speed is 0, the frictional force is maximum, and when speed is increasing in this way, the frictional force will decrease in this direction, right? Again, the second one is the viscous friction. So viscous friction, it is proportional to your angular speed. So when angular speed is increasing in this way, the frictional force is increasing in this way. So one graph we are getting here. So at this speed we are getting this much of torque or viscous friction, and at this speed the frictional force is increasing. So in that way we are getting this type of graph. Okay, so here the graph is increasing linearly with respect to the angular speed. Next one is the Coulomb friction. So Coulomb friction is independent of your speed. So whatever the speed, Coulomb friction is this one. So Coulomb friction, it is not depending upon the speed of the system, right? Next one, so the total frictional force, it is the sum of your static friction, viscous friction and Coulomb friction. So if we will combine these three graphs, we will get one resultant graph. This is the final output. So maximum torque is here for the static friction. Again it is decreasing in this way. So this graph, how this graph is formed, we need to draw this graph. So this graph, this is my speed, angular speed. So due to the static friction, torque is maximum here. Now when the speed is increasing, that means we are losing the static friction. So the torque is decreasing in this way, and as the Coulomb friction is here, it is not depending upon the speed. So at this point, even if the speed is increasing, this will not further decrease, and due to the viscous friction, it will linearly increase in this way. Okay, so this is the resultant graph that I have shown here, that we are getting here due to the combination of your static friction, viscous friction and Coulomb friction. Okay, next one is the Wendes friction. So what is Wendes friction? So it is the opposition torque produced due to the cutting of air or fluid, right? Suppose one ship propeller is merged inside the water, and if the propeller is rotating, then it will opposed by a frictional force. That kind of frictional force is called as your Windass friction, and the torque which is required to overcome that friction is called as your Windass torque. So Windass torque is proportional to the square of the speed. So Windass torque is proportional to the square of the speed, and it is equal to c omega m square. So c is the constant here. Okay, now the next type of friction force is the torque. Is the torque required to use the torque required to do the useful mechanical work, this one. So this is one of the component of load torque. So we have completed frictional torque, Windass torque. Now the third one is the torque required to use to do the useful work. So in this slide, what we are seeing here, this type of torque may depends upon the speed or may not. That means it may be the function of the speed, or it may not be the function of the speed. That means the torque which is required to do the useful mechanical work, it may or may not the function of the speed. It may depend upon the temperature, or it may not depend upon the temperature. This is the second point. Then third point, it may or may not depends upon the path followed by the system. In case of paper mill, the Coulomb torque is more dominant in nature. In case of fan, centrifugal pumps, aeroplanes and sea propeller, the most dominating torque is your Windass torque. So Windass torque, it is the torque developed, or it is the torque produced due to the cutting of the air or fluid. That's why these are the examples of fan, centrifugal pumps, aeroplane and sea propeller. In case of a high speed hoist, or you can consider a lift, the gravitational force and the Windass torque is more dominant, right? So these are some examples of your torque, various steady state load torque speed curve. So if this is all the y-axis are shown as the speed and all the x-axis are the load torque, so these are the various examples. The first figure shows it is the speed torque equation due to the Windass torque. As we know, Windass torque is a function of our load torque. Here the load torque is a function of your square of the speed. In second case, this one is for the high speed hoist drive system. In third case, it is the traction load. In fourth case, it is the constant power load applications. Okay, so here some basic speed torque curves are shown, and it might comes in your exam to draw the speed torque equation of a speed torque curve due to the Windass torque, or draw the speed torque curve of high speed hoist drive system, or the traction load system, or the constant power load system. So this might come in your exam. So you should remember all these graphs, and you need to draw the graph during the exam. Next one, the calculation of time and energy loss in transient operation. So before that, we should know what is transient operations. So in electrical drive system, transient operation means it is due to the braking, due to the speed changing, due to speed reversing. So transient condition will appear due to speed changing, speed reversing and braking, right? Now we know that the total torque is the combination of your load torque plus Z into rate of change of your angular momentum plus B omega m 0. But in viscous friction, as the angular speed is 0, so in this case this tends to 0. Now we should solve these equations, as the second term is the function of your angular speed. We can also write this torque, this load torque or the total torque is the function of your speed also. So Z d omega m by dt is equal to t omega m minus TL omega m. So as we are calculating the time here, so t is equal to Z into integration of d omega m divided by t omega m minus TL omega m. Now the small t is equal to j into the same equations, but here we need to add the limit. So omega m1 is the initial motor speed, whereas omega m2 is the final motor speed, these two. Okay, so this is my equation number 2, and the first one, this is equation number 1. The first one is the equation number 1, this is equation number 2. Now so we have calculated the time. So in equation number 2 we have calculated time, and for the calculation of your energy we need to go through this theory part. So all this theory you need to cover, and in order to resolve this transient operation analogy, we need to consider to overcome this transient operation when the speed is when the speed changes 95%. That means suppose one motor is rotating, and due to the transient operations this motor speed is changed, and if there is a changing of the motor speed 95%, then we need to this graph. If you will think about this graph, let us study the graph first. Suppose in omega, in this equations, so this equation omega m2 is equal to omega m1 plus 0.95%. so 0.95% means it is the 95% of your change in speed, omega me minus omega m1. So in transient operation means starting, braking, speed changing and speed reversing, that we have already discussed. So operation in transient operation, it can be evaluated using equation number 1 that we have seen here, equation number 1 and equation number 2. So if we will draw one graph by using the above two equations, this one. So during the transient operation it can be evaluated using equation number 1 when T and TL, T is the total torque or motor torque you can say, and TL is the load torque, are constant or proportional to the speed, equation number 1. Okay, So it is proportional to the speed, which will be equal to, which will be the first order linear differential equations that we are seeing here in the first equations, equation number 1. Okay, equation number 1 is the linear first order equation, and it can be resolved by analyzing or analytically, and t can be determined for any transient operations. Okay, the final speed is the equation is the final speed is the equilibrium speed, and theoretically the transient are over in infinite times, which is not shown in practicals because infinite time we can't represent in a graph. So during the transient operations it may take some time to settle down into the previous steady state conditions. So in order to resolve this analogy of transient operations, it is considered that when 95% speed change happen, so this transient operation can be resolved. So initial speed is omega m1. So after the transient we are getting the final speed, that is omega m2. So omega m2 is the combination of your initial speed plus speed changes, 95% speed change, so it is 0.95 whole into omega me minus omega m1. So neglecting the frictional force or friction coefficient B in equation number 1, we can get equation number 2 in second. Okay, so if we will neglect in equation number 1, we will get the time in equation number 2, right? So in equation number 2 it can be integrated only if the time is given, only if the total torque or the load torque are known, and the integral form. So if you'll go for the equation number 2 in the previous slide, so equation number 2 it can be resolved if you have the knowledge regarding the motor torque and the load torque and the initial speed of the system and the final speed of the system. Okay, so by using some values of motor torque, load torque, initial speed and final speed, the value of your time can be calculated. Okay, now after getting the time, if time is given, then the angular speed or the energy, sorry, it is not the angular speed, it is the energy in watt. So the energy dissipated in the motor winding during the transient operations is given by W is equal to integration from 0 to t I square RT, where R is equal to, where R is the motor winding resistance, I is the current flowing through each coil. Okay, now similarly in the steady state stability, the drive is in stable state at a constant speed of the developed motor torque is equal to the sum of the load torque as well as the frictional torque. So most of the electrical drive can be controlled by closed loop system stability of the drive also closed loop system, and the system stability of the drive also depends upon the controlling parameters. A system is said to be in equilibrium condition if there is no disturbance. Okay, so steady state stability, in this case the system should be in the standstill condition, and if the system is said to be in equilibrium condition if there is no disturbance. Again, in steady state stability, if suppose one system is in unstable state and it will come back to the initial stage, so that time we need to calculate, and if the system is said to be stable, then we have the knowledge that suppose in this figure this is my equilibrium point. So in steady state stability, after the disturbance, if the system is again returning to this stable point, then that type of system is called as the stable system. Okay, and after disturbance, if the system is not coming to its original position, if it is coming to the new equilibrium point, then that type of system is called as unstable system. Okay, so here you can see the system is said to be stable if after the disturbance it returns to the new equilibrium conditions or returns to the original conditions. Okay, a system is said to be stable if after the disturbance it returns to the new equilibrium condition or returns to the original conditions as previous. Okay, and if system is said to be unstable if it comes to rest or has a condition continuous increase in the speed following or disturbance, then that type of system is called as unstable system. The stability studies can also be easily done by using steady state speed torque curve of load and motor assuming some kind of disturbance. Okay, and again we can see here, if the rate of change of your load torque is more than the rate of change of your motor torque, then to get a stable state or to get back the system into stability, we need to increase the speed of the system, right? And if the load torque is less than your motor torque, then to get the stability we need to decrease the speed of the system, right? So this is the steady state stability theory part. So students should go through all this theory and you will get the knowledge. So no need to explain all these things. So this slide also it is regarding your steady state stability, and the final equations which are getting here, this equation is all about your rate of change of your angular momentum, okay, during the steady state operations. So this is all about your today's class, and next class we shall go for the new chapter, that is your heating and cooling constant. Thank you.